I just completed videos on BTI, British American Tobacco, and Mo, Altria. Such phenomenal companies, tons of free cash flow, and they give most of that free cash flow back to the investor, back to you in a dividend. They pay an enormous dividend. BTI over 10%, Mo 9.1%. It's all profit. And it's these companies are a little different than a traditional like company. Like a regular company, like most companies, like tech companies or other companies, they are scaling, growing, trying to build factories, trying to sell as many products as they can, trying to build their customer base. But of course, they want to grow, but it's hard for them to really scale like a regular company is, because you can't just, I mean, you could try to get people to smoke more or try to get new customers, but I mean, it's hard to kind of like, you have your population of people that smoke. Of course, there will be younger people who will start becoming smokers at some point in their life. So you could market to those people, but it's hard to really get people to like buy that much more. They're already buying a lot as it is, because it's an addictive product. So that's why it seems like they give back most of their free cash flow to you as dividend. I mean, 10%, it's just crazy, right? So these are the 12 tobacco companies that trade in the US. And I always show this chart in my videos. So Philip Morris is the biggest company by far. They're almost the size of the other 11 companies combined. They're pretty much equal to number 2 and 3 combined. They spend the most in CapEx. CapEx is property, plant, and equipment. It's how you make products. You buy factories, you buy machinery. BTI spends $700 million in CapEx, so a pretty good number. They're located in London, but they sell pretty much around the world. I think 180 countries they sell their, hey Chris, what's up? They sell their products in, which is a pretty, I mean, it's pretty, how many countries are there? 195? Does anybody know off the top of their head? I know it's debatable because there's some countries that some people don't consider countries. But I think 195, yeah. So they sell 207, 92% of the world. Because some people consider, there's certain places people don't always consider countries. But here's a question I have. Someone from the US, like, because the UK is a country, but England, Northern Ireland, Wales with no H, because it's not an animal, it's a country, right? Wales with no H. If it wasn't H, that would be the mammal. Wales with no H, and Scotland. So that's what makes up the UK. But do you live in these countries? Do you consider, or they're not countries. Do you live in these places? What do you consider, like Scotland? Do you consider that a country? Because it's not a country, right? It's just part of the UK. The UK is a country. And within the UK are these 4 big significant places. But I remember I can't remember what webs where I was. There was somebody like streaming. I can't remember where they were streaming, and they lived in Scotland, I think. And I said, what country do you live in? JB, what's up? My favorite topic. Altria all the way. Although Kronos and Juul were duds, what happens to Altria if it's federally legalized? Well, I don't think that's going to happen. Federally legalized, because we don't live in China. But I guess if it was, the stock, I don't even think the stock would suffer that much. The thing is, when you sell a product that's addictive, it's like the greatest business model in the world. It's like you're a legalized drug dealer. And I know, like, you can't compare cigarettes to like hardcore drugs, but a lot of things are addictive. People use the internet addictively. People drink a lot. People sometimes do things that you don't think of as addictive, like eating like really sugary foods. Like, some people just are addicted. So, and it's not illegal to sell sugary foods, right? Or cigarettes. But it's the greatest business model when you have a product that people need. They feel like they need as much as they need food, water, friendship. They need those cigarettes. So it's a great business model. So they have lots of customers who are highly addicted to their products, who will never switch. But the market share is going down in the U.S. Juul was such a dud. They've been writing down a lot of their investments in Juul. Let's look at Altria. But the thing is, you get such a massive dividend, 9%. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's almost like you can't lose unless you sell the stock. Of course, you might lose, but you're going to get your dividend payment. I mean, if you buy it at a really high price, then your yield is going to be lower. But if you get it at a decent price, you might even have a 20-30% dividend if your cost basis was lower. Okay, so let's see what they say about Juul. Pursuant to the transfer agreement, all our beneficiaries own Juul equity securities. In exchange, we received a non-exclusive, irrevocable global license to certain Juul heated tobacco intellectual property. But when you're a cash cow like this, you can take a hit or two on a bad investment. The only thing I don't like about tobacco, also cannabis, and gambling stocks is that this big funds don't like to invest in these stocks. So you get a little less action than you should have gotten. Still, plenty of people are investing in these stocks, but it's not as liquid as it could be. But there's so many lawsuits with these companies. People always suing. So in February 2024, there was a claim against Juul. Provision of their online purchase agreement dismissed without prejudice, because people get really upset when companies sell cigarettes. They're like, you're killing people by selling cigarettes. I guess so. I mean, people don't really die directly from cigarettes. I mean, some people maybe get cancer, things like that. But generally people die from like other things too. Like, it's not the drug that kills them. It's just the lifestyle, like being really overweight or not taking care of yourself. And then if you take drugs or you drink alcohol, or even if you eat really poorly, it could kill you. But it's a great market. It's a great business model, tobacco stocks. That's why you get a massive dividend. So we recorded a loss of $250 million related to the disposition of our former investment in Juul. We recorded non-cash pre-tax unrealized losses. So yeah, unfortunately, you take a big hit. They own a pretty significant portion of AB InBev, the Belgian brewer. I think that's the biggest beer company in the world, right? AB InBev. And they've taken huge impairments, $2.5 billion asset impairment. But if you know how to read financials, you'll know that, you know, they have these big losses, but they're still generating a ton of cash. I'll show you. So here's their profit and loss statement. Unfortunately, revenue is declining, but they're more profitable. Revenue $26 billion in 2021, down to $24.5 billion in 2023. Look how low their cost of revenue is. It's only 25% of their revenue. They pay $4 billion in excise taxes because in order for the government to make extra money, not only do they tax gambling, alcohol, cigarettes, they tax everything, but they give an additional tax. It's called an excise tax. So on top of the regular tax, it's another tax. So so if you sell cigarettes, if you have a retail store and sell cigarettes, you have to pay this excise tax. It's the responsibility of the merchant to pay it. But they just pass along that cost to us. So if the U.S. government or whatever, say cigarettes are $5 a pack for the store to buy. A company like Philip Morris sells at $5, and then they have to pay another $2 in regular taxes, and then on top of that they pay another $1 of excise taxes. So they're already in it for $9. Oh, $8. So then they obviously they're running a business, so they have to pay for electricity. They have rent. They have employees. So they have to sell it for say double just to cover their overhead. So they sell it to us for 16. But if the U.S. government is low on funds, they just say, okay, we're going to throw another, we're going to raise the excise tax on cigarettes. So they raise it $2. But it's not like the merchant pays the $2. It's just we pay 18 instead of 16. It's all passed along to us. They just sold down a portion of AB InBev and are going to use it to buy back stock. Right. So just look at it. Look at it. Gross profit, and this includes $4 billion of excise taxes. Gross profit of $14 billion. That's just nuts because they only had revenue of $24 billion. Like really, really good margins. Equals 14 or 24. So the gross profit margin, 58%. And then you have operating income of $11 billion. So their net income is $11 billion. So it's almost all profit for these companies, which is why they give such a big dividend. But if you look at revenue is pretty flat. It's actually going down. But look at their net income. It's lowest with the highest revenue. 26 billion of revenue, lowest net income, 3.8 billion. 2022, it doubles to 7 billion, but it's still a lot lower than 2023. Why? Because of the write-downs. they wrote down a ton on AB InBev. So in 2021, 6 billion of write-downs. And that's almost all AB InBev. So 5.5 billion of AB InBev and Kronos 400 million. So a write-down it doesn't affect cash flow. So to give you an example, say you bought a car for $25,000, right? Say you just paid with cash. You bought the car, and then 3 years later, you total the car. The car just, you get into an accident, and you can't really use it. So so the value is like $5,000. Say the Kelley Blue Book value. So your insurance company just pays you $5,000, and your car is totaled. You have to get a new car. So if you bought it in, say, 2021, and then in 2024 you totaled it, you don't. It's not like, even though like you lost $20,000. Let's just pretend. So the value is now $25,000. So you lost $20,000. You didn't really lose. Sure, it sucks. You have to get a new car, but you don't have to pay $20,000 in 2024, right? The money's gone. It's in 2021. You already paid for that car. But when you do your kind of like your taxes, your accountant will show this $20,000 loss from the car. But you don't lose, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the money's out the door. Like, in 2024, nothing changes besides the headache of trying to find a new car. So that's the same thing at these companies. Like, they acquired AB InBev or whatever company, Kronos, years ago. It could be 20, 30 years ago. They acquired these companies. So they already paid the money. It's not like, so when the value of these companies decreases, like significantly, say you carry AB InBev on your balance sheet at like the value. When I say the value, I mean the goodwill. Say you carry it at 30 billion, and then you have to write it down for whatever reason. Maybe sales are poor, and you write it from 30 to 10 billion. So you took a $20 billion loss, but you didn't lose any money, right? It just, the money, the transaction happened years ago when you acquired them. So for that context, it makes total sense when you look at the statement of cash flows. So you can see this $6 billion write-down, which makes your net profit, and this is not cash. The income statement is accounting. So this makes your profit $4 billion. And a lot of people think that's how much cash they generated. They $4 billion of cash profit. No, it's accounting profit. So when you look on the statement of cash flows, remember that number, 5.9 billion. Now, to calculate how much cash they generated, you take your net profit of 2.5 billion and you convert it to cash. How do you convert net profit into cash? Well, you have to adjust for the non-cash items on the income statement. So you have to add back 5.9 billion. You have to add it back because that brought down your net income, but it doesn't affect cash flow. And there's a lot of other things going on here. But they actually generated a healthy profit. I mean, a healthy amount of cash flow. 8.5 billion in 2021. Also 8 billion in 2022. Even better in 2023, over 9 billion. So that's why, if you're a kind of a new investor, and you're trying to learn about a company or see how they did, look at the operating cash flow section. You might even ignore the net profit, because that's why when a company reports like a big loss for a year and the stock goes up a lot, or they report a big gain and the stock goes down and people don't understand why, you should look at the cash flow, because that's an indicator of how the company actually did for that current year. That's how in 2021 they actually generate $8 billion in cash flow. So it's just like in your car example. If you bought a car for $25,000 in 2021, you actually spent, and let's just say your salary was like, just to use extremes, was $50,000. So you actually, half your salary was spent on this car, this $50,000 car. So in terms of cash in 2021, you actually didn't make any money really, because you have $50,000 salary, then after taxes you get like $40,000. So you actually have no cash flow. So it's kind of weird that the cash would be reflected in 2024 when you pass through this big loss. I don't know if that's clear. So anybody else on the stream? So yeah, Juul. But they need to get into the vaping market. They need to, because the traditional combustible cigarettes is a declining market in the US. So they need to kind of they need new customers. Juul makes electronic cigarettes, I guess. Vaping, that's a big product, which Juul was founded, headquarters, acquired 35% in Juul Labs for $12.8 billion. Altria spent $12.8 billion. Juul received $2 billion bonus to distribute among its 1,500 employees. They must have been happy. After a large social media marketing campaign, Juul became the most popular e-cigarette company in the US. 72% market share. That's crazy. In what order do you rank the big three at today's prices? In 2018, per an investigation by the FDA, Juul agreed to pull certain flavored cartridges from the market because I guess people felt they were really targeting young kids, little kids, or preteens by having this flavored tobacco. So it was kind of like candy. And kids were getting addicted to it. So in 2019, the company reached a settlement with the Center for Environmental Health, under which it agreed to scale back and restrict its marketing efforts to those who are appropriately aged. By July 2020, its market share fell to 42%. It's hard to predict these things. Like when you have 70% of the U.S. market share, it's hard to predict. The worst thing that could have happened where the U.S. government interfered. You don't mind another company coming into the space and trying to take your market share, but when the U.S. government comes in, or any government, it's kind of like you really have nowhere to go. They're too powerful, and you can't really fight them because it's illegal, right? If the government tells you to do something and you don't do it, it's kind of illegal, and you might go to jail or get in trouble. So as of September 2022, it came out 28%. Juul is the third most popular e-cigarette brand among middle school and high school students, used by 22% of e-cigarettes users. The FDA denied authorization for Juul to continue selling its products in the United States and issued marketing denial orders banning any further marketing or sale of products effective immediately. That order was blocked by the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. the next day. So it's a tough road for these cigarette companies. It's almost worse than alcohol, because cigarettes is especially in the U.S. it's so demonized, right? It's like, oh my God, you smoke? But no one would ever say that if you're having a drink. That's kind of like, it's very socially acceptable. It's even looked at as like, you know, I want to say it's a positive, but it's almost looked at as like anybody of any social status has a drink. If you're very cultured, if you have a drink of fine wine. But cigarettes, oh my God, that's so disgusting. Like no one would ever say like, oh, that's very look highly upon someone who's smoking. Wow, he looks so successful smoking that brand of cigarettes. Very powerful person right there, very intelligent, smoking a cigarette. It would never happen. There's no cigarette in the world that you could smoke and people would say, oh my God, that's very very impressed by the cigarette you're smoking. But if you have like a really expensive bottle of wine, or you have a really sensitive palate towards wine, you could, you know, you almost like, it's very respected, right? So it's kind of like, but you have other countries, right? Other countries are still kind of growing their cigarette smoking. Cigarette sales in the U.S. It's not common, like people who smoke, at least I don't see it too often. And there are some people that I work with that smoke. Just the other day, actually, I saw someone in their car. Like, I'm like, why do they always go to their car? So I look out the window and I see like the cigarette smoke coming out, because it's almost like an embarrassment. Like you don't even want to do it in front of people. Okay. Look how much and it used to be like totally socially acceptable in the 50s to smoke. It was almost like odd not to smoke if you're an adult. It was healthy. Remember Mad Men, the TV show? It was really healthy to smoke, right? Cigarette sales by number of sticks. So it was over 400 billion cigarettes were sold in 2000. And now it's down to almost half that. And that's since 2000. But other countries, it's still a pretty strong growth. Well, it's growing in other countries. Maybe not strong growth, but BTI gives a lot of info on other countries. So okay, 342 billion. Oh, these are packs. Okay, these are packs of cigarettes. That makes more sense, because I'm like, there are a lot more than 400 billion cigarettes were sold, because just this company, BTI alone, sold in the is this? Oh no, that volume group excluding, but okay, but that's their world sales, 550 billion in the world. That's individual cigarettes. These are packs, 400 billion packs. Okay, so they sold 550 billion cigarettes. I thought this was a U.S. only chart. Okay, which is down from 580 billion last year. And they're projecting, this is this company, British American Tobacco, the second largest cigarette company in the world. They're projecting this dark blue line is a sale of regular cigarettes, and they're projecting it to go down like about 30% by 2035. But they're projecting their alternative cigarettes, heated products, vape, that's their brand Vape, they're projecting those to all grow. So they expect total volume to be equivalent over the next 12 or so years, because the sale of the non-combustibles is expected to grow. And they're expecting their revenue to grow a lot, because actually there's very little excise taxes on vape products. So their margins are a lot higher. I think cancer killed this whole industry, but I live in New York, so many people smoke cigarettes here. Yeah, they have so much cash flow in these companies. It's amazing. So you can see their new category, the non-combustibles. They had 1.3 billion of revenue in 2019. It's up to 3.3 billion. And it's mostly from modern oral. Like chewing tobacco is an example of modern oral. They're here in the UK, and they touch 180 countries. So like 90% of the world, the countries in the world, they touch. On Earth, right? Because the world is. Oh, this was an interesting chart down here. Look at their market share. They control 39% of the market in Australia. But some countries, it's almost 100%. That Chile, 96% of the market they sell to. So they pretty much control that country in terms of cigarette sales. They're 1/3 of the US market. They sell Camels and Lucky Strike, I think. Yeah, Lucky Strike and Camels. So those are big in the US. But they sell like Rothmans, Pall Mall, which aren't as popular in the US as they are in Europe. And a bunch of other products, of course. But they're, really focusing on their non-combustible Views and Velo. And what's the other one? Veo? I think Veo is the other one. Views. Is it Veo? Yeah, Veo. That's the third one. So Veo, tobacco-free herbal products. Yeah, so the market, came down a lot, right? On Friday. I think in Asia, it's increasing cigarette usage. But I think cigarette usage overall is increasing because countries, because non-US countries are still increasing. The increase is more than the decrease in the US. And they're profitable in their non-combustible market. They projected to be profitable in 2025, but they were in 2023. BTI is all the rage right now. I'm trying to find this. There was a chart that showed BTI. It's all the rage, you mean in the US or in Europe? This was an interesting chart. This shows you how we're getting killed. The average American worker is just getting crushed. Inflation is down. It was 6.5% in 2022. It's now 3.5%. So inflation has come down, as you all know. But the thing is, hourly earnings it actually went down. The hourly earnings, this is just like a whole basket of Americans, actually went down in 2022. The average American made less per hour, 1.6% less per hour when you compare 2021 to 2022. And inflation was like a highest inflation in like several decades, 6.5%. Hourly earnings did go up in 2023, but only 0.6%, not even 1%. It didn't even keep up with inflation. That's what we just get squeezed. We get crushed. Like it almost feels like I can't even spend money anymore because if I even go like to dinner, I'm already spending like it's like $100. Me and my wife to go to dinner. Like it's like you can't. Nothing's cheap. Like you get it. A slice of pizza was like $7 for one slice. Like everything is just so overpriced, and that's just the basics. Like if I want to buy like new furniture or I want to fix up something on my car, like it just everything is like double, triple what it was pre-COVID. Surprisingly, consumer sentiment is up. It went from 60 to 70. I guess because inflation came down, consumer sentiment is up. Real hourly earnings includes inflations. Thank you, Richie. So I stand corrected. So even though inflation is built, we did manage to pretty much just barely beat inflation, 0.6%. In 2022, we were trailing inflation. I mean, but personally, I feel like, I guess because I used to work in Manhattan, but like I make so much less money than I did 15 years ago. And things are so much more expensive now than they were 10, 15 years ago. But the thing is, I have much more savings than I used to have. So most of my bills are covered, but I still I can't, it seems like my money doesn't go anywhere. It's like, you can't even, if you go on a vacation, if you take a vacation, like if you want to go on a nice vacation, like you go to like another country, that's already like all your savings for the year is that one vacation. All your residual money after paying for taxes and food and shelter, that's like all the money that was left for the entire year. Like there's like no excess money anymore. Okay. If anybody wants to be part of the live stream, you're always welcome. I'll put the link in. It's always good to have Richie. You weren't on the live stream, Richie, right? Because the guy who was on the live stream, he didn't say his name, so I don't know who that was. I make more now than ever, and I still feel like I'm not making. That's good. You make more, but yeah, it's like if you make, like if it was like 2016, and you make 80,000. And then now to 2024, let's say your salary kept up and you made 120,000. It's like whether it was 2016 or 2024, you still have. It's hard to move forward. I know what you're saying, JB. Like it's hard to like start growing a big nest egg and having a lot of extra funds and like investing and it's just like your money doesn't go anywhere. The only reason I feel kind of like well off is because I saved so much in the past and I didn't spend much. But if it wasn't for that, I would be living like most people, paycheck to paycheck. Because there's no. It seems like you have to make at least 200,000 just to like start to feel like you can like spend extra money and not worry about it. But like even if you just go to dinner, like that's already all the money you have, because if you had to fix something on your car, that ate up 3 months of savings. What companies give me exposure to Asia and Africa cigarettes? Population booming. BTI, I think they have a huge market share in every country, but they're like almost 100% of Pakistan. Oh, no, 79% of Pakistan. What country? I saw they were like. It's Chile. It's 96. Bangladesh, I was thinking 86% of market share in Bangladesh. So they have a huge market share in all countries, and they have factories all over the place. I mean, I'm sure Philip Morris does as well, but it seems like BTI has a bigger reach. Yeah, if you live in like New York City, like I used to make around that much when I was in New York City. I was a lot younger. And I don't think I've never like felt like I could just spend tons of money, go out, spend a few $1,000s, live it up. Like I've never felt that way. I think I would need to like win 10 million in the lottery but even that, like, even if you have like, I don't know, it's just like, it never seems like it's enough, no matter what amount of money you have. Like when you're starting to save, it's like, okay, I just need at least 20,000 savings to kind of feel like I have enough where I can, where if something goes wrong, I don't have to like go into debt. And then you realize that's nothing, 20,000. You're like, okay, I need at least 50. Because what if my car breaks down? Because that's already 15,000 right there if I have to get a new car, or 20,000 or whatever. And then when you get that 50,000, you're like, that's nothing. I can't even get a down payment on a house. Then you get 100,000, and you're like, okay, when I hit $1 million, then I'll definitely feel comfortable. Altria is just U.S. Philip Morris is international, right? I was going to say BTI. Look at that; they're trading at 6 times free cash flow. Really, look at that's amazing, right? Altria versus. No, I think. Well, Altria doesn't. Altria is like Berkshire Hathaway. They don't do anything besides own other companies. They're just a holding company. They hold Philip Morris. They hold AB InBev. They hold several companies. Okay, so Philip Morris. So I think Altria, they own a significant part of Philip Morris, but they only report their I can't remember if it, did I write it down? Somebody asked me this once. I forgot it. I think Altria. What is the difference between PMO? Does anybody know? Isn't one of them has the U.S. market and the other has the international market? But I can't remember which is which. Two of the world's largest tobacco companies split up more than 10 years ago amid concerns over payouts to shareholders. Now they are talking about getting back together. Wanting higher dividends. Okay, Altria is focused on the U.S. market, selling its Marlboro cigarettes, while Philip Morris is focusing on international. I'm going to write that down. I always forget it. It's PM, right? The ticker? Mo is US. Mo is US, right. But Altria is a holding company. Like, they don't make anything. Am I wrong about it? I thought that Altria, whose main subsidiaries produce tobacco products, the company traced its roots to 1847. So yeah, does Altria make anything? Altria's companies make some of the most iconic brands. Okay, that's why it can be a little confusing to some people, but it's just like me and you. When we own stock in another company, we don't actually make anything. We just own the stock. The companies make the stuff. So that's why Altria is half the price, half the market cap as Philip Morris, because Philip Morris actually makes the product and generates all the revenue and profits. And they just disperse some of those profits back to its shareholders, like Altria. And Altria gets a dividend from Philip Morris, just like we get the dividend from Philip Morris. But Altria also gets the dividend and stock price appreciation for many other companies. I'll tell you which companies. Altria, they used to be the same company and they were split apart. Altria used to be Philip Morris companies. Altria is a parent of Philip Morris USA, John Middleton. John Middleton Cigars. It's the largest manufacturer of cigars, and they make pipe tobacco. They also, the U.S. Smokeless Tobacco Company, I guess like for chew, and snus and snuff. So this is SNUS is pronounced snus, not snus. I did say snus in the video and somebody corrected me. Altria also maintains a large minority interest in Belgium-based AB InBev, the beer company, and Kronos, the cannabis company Kronos. So Kronos is a publicly traded company. just like Philip Morris. Altria just owns, it's like owns, kind of like us, owns stock in these companies. Because I think they have to get exposure to cannabis, right? Okay, yeah, Adam, that sounds good. You should do a live stream with me, Adam, and we could talk about the hey Godskin, we could talk about that your model in real time and show people if you feel comfortable. Yeah, these cannabis stocks are just getting clobbered, right? Remember when Biden got elected and all cannabis stocks went through the roof? It hit $21. Like it went up like 500% in like a month or two. Now it's trading pretty much at its all-time low, $2. So Altria, they did spin off Kraft Foods in 2007, and also Philip Morris International in 2008. It's confusing because there's all these companies, they're intertwined with each other. A lot of them own each other. So if you want to invest in Kronos, you can just buy Kronos stock, or you can buy Altria. You're getting Kronos and you're getting other stocks too. It's like if you want to buy Apple, you can buy Berkshire Hathaway that owns 10% of Apple, or 5% or whatever they own. The stock doesn't move with Apple, but because there was a time, your Apple stock went up like 10, 15x if you owned it from like 2000 to 2020, for instance, or something like that. I 10x my Apple. I bought Apple in 2012 and sold it in 2020, and I 10x'd. But you couldn't really 10x Berkshire Hathaway. Well, you could, but you have to own it a little longer than you own Apple. Like they don't move perfectly together, but they definitely move together. Yeah, I think Microsoft. So if you 5 years ago, if you bought Apple, you'd be up 224% right now, and Berkshire 90%. So you were better off buying Apple, but it's not always going to be like that. In the past year, Berkshire is up 23%. Apple is down 1%. So, but like if there's other companies Berkshire owns, like Kraft Heinz. If you bought Kraft Heinz, like Apple owns what, 10% of Kraft Heinz? So if 5 years ago you bought Kraft Heinz instead of Berkshire, you'd be up only 12%, and Berkshire's up 90%. I mean, Apple is just one of the best companies in the world, so pretty much it outperformed almost any company. So that's what I'm saying. So if you want to get Altria, if you wanted to get exposure to certain companies, you can buy the holding company. or you can buy the stock. But when you buy a stock, it's much more volatile. A holding company usually owns a lot of companies, so it's much less risk if one of the companies goes bankrupt. It's like buying a individual stock or an index. Yeah, I really like Microsoft. I've actually been picking up a lot of Microsoft the past few months. I think it's one of the better companies out there, of the big companies, one of the better big companies. What are the other big names? Amazon and Google, right? Google. And don't listen to anybody, because no, even if whatever you want, people will always give you the worst advice. So in 5 years, Microsoft and Apple up the most, over 200%. Meta 180%. Google 150%, and Amazon 90%. But in the past 2 years, look at Meta. Do you follow Petrobras? Yeah, Petrobras, the Brazilian. Do you see it? It looks like they're finally going to release their extra dividends to tune of 6. Yeah, it's tough, those companies, because when you invest in a Brazilian company or a Chinese company, they kind of capped at the growth, the possible growth. But I've been kind of bearish Apple for a couple of years now, so I'm not too keen on Apple. But that doesn't mean anything. It could go up a ton. I like Microsoft a lot better than Apple or Google. Yeah, I think Microsoft is one of the better of the big 7. I mean, you know how I feel about Meta. I'm extremely bullish on Meta. But Meta, there's much more risk with Meta than a Microsoft. Microsoft is so stable. It has such a because it sells so many products. I like Qualcomm. Wish I bought Microsoft holding for, yeah. I think I try to look at most stocks as like, will this stock be, or will this company be around in 20 years? Will they still, and if I'm not sure, like a company that sells like cannabis, like there's no way you can say, oh, this company's gonna be around in 20 years, because the product might not even be legal still in 20 years. It's not in the US. I mean, it is on a state level. So there's just too many like issues like that. So like I know McDonald's will be around in 20 years, but I'm not sure. I'm not saying and I think there's a good amount of upside with McDonald's, but I just don't see as much upside. You know, it's fierce competition. I don't really totally believe in a product because I don't really eat fast food unless I'm like traveling and that's only option. But yeah, I think of the big 7, I'm really I think Microsoft is the best one. It happens to be the most expensive one, but I think it's the best value. I hope Meta goes up the most. And I think Meta has the most upside potential because of scalability. But they all can scale so much. I mean, it's it's not even close. I don't like Apple so much. And I made a video. It's not like I'm just saying that now because it went down. I made a video. I'm thinking of shorting Apple. I just think it's too concentrated on the iPhone. It's like everything is the iPhone. Like, what is it? Like 70% of their sales is the iPhone. Yeah, Ford will be around. A lot of companies will be around. And that's important because a company's around, you should at least make some money. If it's around in 20 years, you probably would have made something, whether it be the stock going up or dividends. But I don't even know if Ford would be around in 20 years, actually. I mean, who knows anything? But they just have so much debt. And as important they're important. They're very important to the United States. I totally get that. They've been around so long, but they're not like. What companies are more important than Ford to the U.S.? I think Microsoft is more important. It's just they make shitty products. I'm not saying the cars are bad. It's just that they don't make money. They lose so much money. It's hard. It's hard to be successful when you sell a product that you don't make much money on. Like this, the margins are so slim. There's such the expenses are so high. They have such a strain with their pension, and they have such a strain with manufacturing scaling. It's just very labor intensive. But they did have 18 billion of free cash flow in 2020. That's abnormally high for them. Let's compare. I know it's hard to compare, but let's see if we can get like a comparison. This is Ford. I know it's hard to compare companies in different industries. I'm just showing you the it just makes it harder when you pick an industry, because if you were going to start a business and say you were open to what type of industry you're gonna go into, what type of, you'd probably want to pick a field where you can make a lot of money and you can scale and grow. Of course, if your expertise are in a certain field, like you're good at fixing cars, so I guess it makes sense to stick to what you're good at. Yeah, they were really innovative in the early days. Ford. So 14,918. Oh no, I'm looking at revenue is 176,191. Free cash flow is free cash flow is 6682. Right, I'm just dropping off the last three zeros. Okay. So the free cash flow margin is 4%. Apple 211.95. %. Yeah, it's just so Microsoft converted 28% of their revenue to free cash flow, Ford 4%. And free cash flow is kind of what's left over for to grow the business or to pay the investors back. So they were flat, kind of break even in 2022. They did better in 2021. They had $9.5 billion. Well, let's look at that better years. 18,527. So they converted 15% of their free cash flow in 2020. So that's pretty good. 15%. Let's see Microsoft in 2020. %32%. Yeah, it's I think that the debt is really the killer for them. Look how much debt they have. 148 billion of debt. So 140. It's 148 billion. If interest rates, I go 5%. Maybe it could be a little lower for them. So if they pay 5% interest, which probably is pretty accurate, that's how much interest they pay in the debt. It's 7.4 billion just in the interest payments alone. Yeah, Ford is they're top 10. I don't think top 3. Verizon is number 1. What's that? Toyota is up there, right? Number 1 is Toyota. 217 billion of debt. Evergrande, 174 billion. Volkswagen, 166. Verizon, 150. Deutsche, then Ford is 139 billion. And it also depends what type of debt you look at. Like some people consider if you have a lease payment, that's debt. The most debt, yeah, it's almost like you get different answers. Verizon, Amazon, AT&T, Ford is number 4 on this list. Amazon, I didn't realize Amazon has so much debt. So if they pay 5%, so let's just do 4%, which is kind of low, but so 6 billion in annual interest payments. So so that means in 2023, all their free cash flow would have went towards their debt. Well, to be fair, free cash flow is after they paid their debt payments, because the interest payments on their debt was part of their net income, and operating cash flow takes into account net income. So they did have almost $7 billion left after paying the debt. They didn't have any money left over in 2022. Yeah. I'll be right back. Yeah, so so what's the future? Who can predict the future? I was thinking if I was able to go back to like the year 2000, I was like, I think I could probably become a trillionaire if I could go back without knowing everything I know, because you can just you could totally lever, like if you knew, like, you don't have to buy like Amazon and wait 25 years. I mean, you could become a billionaire, I guess, if you, or not a billionaire maybe, but you can have a ton of money. But if you invested a ton, put all your money into like Dogecoin when it was 0.00, stuff like that went up like 50,000%. But yeah, let me know what other companies are you guys looking at. So it's Philip Morris, Mo, BTI. This is BTI. This is Mo. So when you look at the high level, the chart. Oh, this is Altria. This is on the website. Why does that do that? Something's not working. Chewy. Chewy looks interesting, right? Definitely better than PetMed Express, Chewy. Okay, let's look at Chewy after this. So this is their actual dividends paid. It peaked in. So this company. I don't think they raise their dividend every single year. They just pay as much as they can pay. So they pay like something like 70% of their free cash flow they pay in dividends. So whatever their free cash flow is, that's why it drops sometimes if they sell less. So you see, so it peaked in 2006, and then it came down in 2009. I guess maybe the Great Recession, and now it's coming back, the dividends. Yeah, Philip Morris owns Zyn. Yeah, Zyn. Okay, Swedish Match. Excellent first year. Delivered strong growth in 2023, driven by U.S. Zyn. Expanding and diversifying U.S. Zyn manufacturing. That's really the future, right? These types of products, the future for tobacco. I don't think cannabis is the future. I don't think sales will ever be that high for cannabis. I guess if it gets legalized on a federal level, it'll go up, but it'll never. I don't think it'll ever be that significant. Cannabis sales, cigarette sales, or tobacco sales will be much more significant. Because you can do anything you can smoke and drive, you can smoke and do anything, but cannabis, you can't do everything on cannabis. Well, some people can, but most people don't feel comfortable. Like even like leaving your house, some people don't even want to leave their house on cannabis. They don't like socializing on cannabis. With cigarettes, you can do anything. So here's their Zyn. Zyn U.S. shipment volumes. It's up to 385 million cans in the fourth quarter. 385 million. So it's growing a lot. Yeah, there you go. It increases productivity. And let's see if they give more info on Zyn. Okay, Zyn. So net revenue is 190 million. No, 190,000? That can't be. Oh, I think this is 190%, right? The growth? Zyn, now $2 billion retail value brand in the U.S. within 5 years national launch. So Zyn is in a bunch of more markets: Iceland, Latvia, Philippines, Hungary, the UK. And they're planning 5 more in Americas, 11 in Europe. What are the negative numbers? Negative numbers? Where was negative numbers? You talk about these numbers? These aren't negatives. These are the tilde, right? It's around 190%. Oh, these are selling prices. I wish they converted to US dollars. So it's €6 in Finland. £6.5 in the UK. That's like, what is that? $8 US. Okay. So Zyn is $6 in California, $6.40 in Texas. So you should buy Zyn in Virginia, and then drive to California and sell it if you want to make some money. Or Colorado. Go to Colorado and sell it. Zyn is the fastest growing U.S. smoke-free brand. Yeah, I think Zyn nicotine pouches. So the little pouches, right? You just put in your mouth. You got to put in your gum, right? Is a brand of nicotine pouches. Yeah, in Sweden. Oh, they don't contain tobacco. So unlike snus, these pouches contain no tobacco. Okay. It contains nicotine, but no tobacco. The brands were created by Swedish Match. Zyn pouches were introduced in 2014. Zyn pouches are sold in round cans, 15 or 20 pouches. The pouches contain nicotine extracted from tobacco leaves. So there's not actually tobacco in there. It's the nicotine is extracted together with food-grade ingredients. The pouches themselves are made of plant fibers, which allow nicotine to diffuse out of the pouch when moistened. Consumption of nicotine pouches seem to result in levels of nicotine in the blood that are similar to those from cigarettes. It's a gateway. It's a gateway product for the youth. Well, I guess that's the goal, right? In 2021, Swedish Match was criticized in the UK for its Zyn marketing on social media. Can't smoke, can't vape, can Zyn. Gum irritation. So it could irritate your gums. Okay. So yeah, good live stream. I'm gonna try to post the BTI video, British Tobacco, and the Altria video. I gotta still edit those. Yeah, I may try Zyn. Maybe get me through the day. Okay, yeah. Well, thanks for joining, and hope you learned something new. Hope it's a good week for everybody. Make a lot of money in the market. I'll talk to you soon.